G'day viewers, Daniel23, how you doing? When is a circle not a circle? Welcome to Flat Earth Bible. In this video series that I'll be doing, I'm going to take a look at the Bible and see if we can determine what the ancient Hebrews believed about the world around them, their cosmology. Did they believe that the earth was flat? Or did they believe that the earth was spherical? So, this is a big topic, and there's a lot of places we could start. But in my opinion, there's only one place to start, and that's with Isaiah 40:22. Let's check out King James. Isaiah 40:22. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. The first part of that verse is the bit that I'm really interested in. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth. The circle of the earth. When trying to show that the Bible has a cosmology of one way or the other, flat or spherical, it is Isaiah 40:22 that's whipped out and used as evidence for both sides. So, the first place to look, I suppose, is to just get a bit of a handle on what believers today think of this line, what they think circle of the earth means. So, first of all, we'll have a look at some prominent apologists. I've got some clips here, 3 of them, which I'm citing fair use for educational purposes. Let's drop in and see what they think, shall we?
When God first made the earth, the Bible tells us it sits on the circle of the earth, and Christians have always known the earth is round, and it said he stretched out the heavens.
Columbus thought the world was round. The Bible knew it.
Exactly.
Now, where do you find that?
In Isaiah chapter 40, verse 22, Isaiah, in speaking of God here, said, "It is he who sitteth upon the circle of the earth." The word Isaiah chose for circle is the word kug. It means basically something with roundness or a sphere.
Like a sphere, yeah.
Chapter 40, verse 22, planetary sphericity, the circle of the earth, stretched out the heavens, and on and on.
Okay, so what did we hear just then? Well, we heard 3 Christian apologists talking about Isaiah 40:22, specifically the circle of the earth, but each one of them mapped onto the word circle a different English word, namely round and sphere. If you do a search on YouTube and you look for Flat Earth Bible, Isaiah 40:22, Science in the Bible, you'll find that there's a lot of believers who will express this opinion. I've had a bit of a look, and I think it might be close to all believers express this opinion. Let's look at a couple of examples. These 2 clips are from believers explaining their view of what Isaiah 40:22 means, specifically the circle of the earth. I asked both of them for permission to use these clips in my video, and they very kindly agreed. I thank them for that. Let's listen in.
The Bible, written thousands of years ago, says the earth is a sphere. Isaiah 40 verse 22a says it is he who sits above the sphere of the earth. Isaiah had a personal, dynamic relationship with God.
Well, let's just answer the one in Isaiah 40 first. The circle of the earth. And you say that circles are flat. Actually, in the original Hebrew language, the word that they used for circle could also mean circuit, could mean compass, and could mean round. But a ball would be the same word that they would use for circle. Anything round would be the same word for circle, and I believe it's pronounced kahug. kahug is the word they use, and it means circle, it means circuit, it means compass, but it also means round. It is a word that they would use in ancient Hebrew to describe anything that was circle-like or round, and it could be either three-dimensional or it could be flat. It all depends on first off the wordage, how it's used in the sentence or whatever. So on one hand they'd use that word to describe an actual circle, a flat circle. On the other hand, they would also use that same word kahug in the ancient Hebrew to also describe maybe the shape of an orange or an apple or a pomegranate. So it's just describing the shape of the circle. It does mean round. That's the more accurate translation. So where it says that his feet sitteth upon the circle of the earth, it is also translated in some translations the round of the earth. And it literally can also mean sphere, okay, in the truest sense of the word, since they use that word to describe not only one-dimensional shapes, or maybe it's a two-dimensional, however, not only flat circles, such as a drawing of a circle, but also a three-dimensional circle as well, or like a sphere too, would be described that using that same word in original ancient Hebrew. Now, so it literally is telling us that the world is round, that the world is a sphere or a globe, and that's the word that they use to describe it. It's interchangeable for not only flat circles like this disc here, but also round circles like a ball or an apple or whatever. So that doesn't necessarily in and of itself mean that they're talking about the flat kind. It could just as easily mean that they're talking about a sphere, a spherical circle with dimension to it. So that's why in some translations it says, "And his feet sitteth upon the round of the earth," in Isaiah 40:22.
So what did we hear just then? Well, first of all, the internet pastor told us that the Bible says that the earth is a sphere. We also heard from the Weinreim, who explained at length that the circle of the earth really means round earth. From all the people that we've listened to so far today, there has been a distinct lack of justification for why circle means something other than circle. I suppose the Weinreim did the best job, but let's just say what he lacked in quality, he made up for in quantity. The next thing that I did was I went and checked out websites. A whole load of websites about Isaiah 40:22, flat earth, all of those sort of topics, science in the Bible. I won't express them here, but I've put a selection of them over in the description box and you can have a look yourself. But you'll find that they say things like sphere and round, and how the Bible, Isaiah 40:22, proves that the Bible, early Bible writers knew that the earth was a sphere. Okay, we're almost out of time, but what's the next step? Well, the next step is we're going to have to check out the Bible. Join me in the next episode. Thanks for watching, guys. Oh, let me also do a quick plug for Wayman29. I'll put a link in the description box. Wayman29 is doing a series a little bit parallel to the one that I'm doing. He's looking at Sheol, hell, and the underworld in the Bible and other ancient literature. Check it out. Well, g'day viewers, Daniel23 here. Welcome to Flat Earth Bible. This episode's entitled A Word from the Bible. Just to recap, last episode we investigated a claim made by people, believers mostly, who, when confronted with the circle of the earth as mentioned in Isaiah 40:22, seem to map onto that a meaning of sphericity or roundness. So what we need to do now is we need to check out the Bible and find out what the Bible says. So what I've done is I've went and already investigated about 35 Bibles, and I'm going to put up the results for you to see now. I found a number of interesting things, really interesting things in fact. The first one to mention is that no two Bibles actually say the same thing, except where there were updated versions of that Bible, and so I've eliminated the updated versions. Next, I found that I could group the Bibles into two different groups. Those that said circle of the earth and those that did not, that said something else. So what I'm going to display now is all of those Bibles that say circle of the earth. Now, the thing that I noted about this, and I think you can see here as well, is that not only, I mean, the Bibles, they don't agree, right? They're not identical. They're not the same. But the part that they do agree on is the circle of the earth. All of these Bibles render circle of the earth as circle of the earth, but the first part of the phrase, whether it's he sitteth upon, or sitteth above, or is enthroned upon, or it is he that sitteth, or he sits, or nobody can be quite conclusive on that, but it seems conclusive that the circle of the earth is the circle of the earth. All right. So that was all of those Bibles. Perhaps the more interesting Bibles to look at are the Bibles that do not say circle of the earth. Now I'll put up all of these now, and we can have a look at what they say. Some of these Bibles don't mention the earth, or they mention the earth, but they don't mention geometry with respect to the earth at all. They just refer to it as the earth. There were a few, two in fact, that mentioned sort of sphericity. One that said round ball, so that's one for our claimants in episode 1, and one that said globe of the earth. Now, the next thing that we have to understand is dynamic and formal equivalence. So, if you go and check out a Wikipedia article about dynamic and formal equivalence, it's a way of translating, methods of translating, and essentially, you can put it into two camps. Camp number one is formal equivalence, and with formal equivalence, what you're trying to do is you are trying to exactly translate the words as accurately as you can from one language to the target language. This is often at the expense of readability. Okay, so it's not easy to read or perhaps even understand. The opposite or second idea is dynamic equivalence. And what happens with dynamic equivalence is that you're not so concerned about translating it word for word or comma for comma or the grammatical style or anything like that. What you are doing is trying to invoke the meaning and re-render it in words that are easy to read and easy to understand in the target language. Now, what I found that surprised me was that I'm very sure that all of the versions of the Bible that do not say circle of the earth are dynamic equivalence versions. I went to their websites and read a bit and have quoted here some of the things that they said about how they translated those versions of the Bible. So let's start, have a quick look. The God's Word translation, enthroned above the earth, said that it's translated so that everyone, whether younger or older, educated or less educated, churched or unchurched, can understand what the Bible means. Seems to be dynamic equivalence. The next one, Bible in Basic English. They translated, it is he who is seated over the arch of the earth. The BBE is translated by Professor S.H. Hook using a standard 850 basic English words. That's all that's in it, 850 words. Some of these Bibles were promoted to an overseas market, non-English speaking market. Next, the Message Bible, which says God sits above the round ball of the earth. Says in the blurb, Message was written in a contemporary idiom. Which keeps the language of the Message Bible current and fresh and understandable. The Contemporary English Version, God is the one who rules the whole earth. The Contemporary English Version is a simplified version of the Bible designed for children and uneducated adults at a 4th grade reading level. The New International Reader's Version, God sits on his throne high above the earth. God has always spoken to people so that they know what he meant. When God first gave the Bible to his people, he used their language. They could understand what they read. God wants us to understand the Bible today, so we have worked very hard to make the New International Reader's Version easy to read and understand. The Good News Bible, which has actually had my favourite rendering of Isaiah 40:22, and their rendering is, "It was made by the one who sits on his throne above the earth and beyond the sky," which, I don't know, invokes Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers to me for some reason. And what they say about this is, in addition to being a dynamic equivalence version, the Good News Bible is also what some translation theorists call common language version. Common language is defined as the language which is common to the usage of both educated and uneducated in any given language. Or to put it more bluntly, it is the level of language used by uneducated people and children. The version was promoted as one which was suitable for children. One exception to this rule that I found was the Dowry Reams Bible. I don't know how you pronounce Dowry Reams. It says, "It is he that sitteth upon the globe of the earth." The Dowry Reams, I wasn't too sure. They had a big long blurb about it in Wikipedia, and there seemed to be some Protestant Catholic shenanigans going on with the Dowry Reams. It was translated from the Latin Vulgate. Let's compare that with what I suspect, I'm guessing, but it seems to me as some formal equivalence versions and what they say about their translations. The New International Version, the NIV. The New International Version is a translation made by more than 100 scholars working from the best Hebrew, Aramaic and Greek texts. Kind of sounds like a ad for coffee or something. You know, the finest roasted blend. The New Living Translation, the goal of any Bible translation is to convey the meaning of the ancient Hebrew and Greek text as accurately as possible to the modern reader. The Amplified Bible was the first Bible project of the Lockman Foundation. It attempts to take both word meaning and context into account in order to accurately translate the original text from one language to another. All right, so those are the sort of things that you're going to find when you look into these Bible versions. I just came across another one which I thought was interesting. It was kind of funny. This one was The Amplified Bible Exposed by David J. Stewart. Dave says, "The Amplified Bible, published by the Lockman Foundation, is straight out of the pits of hell. It is a work of heresy. He is just another impostor based on the corruptions of Westcott and Hort. Then the proof is in the text. A diabolical attack on the Word of God occurs in Philippians 2:6, etc., 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 etc." So, rounding up, with the possible exception of the Amplified Bible being written by Satan himself, these Bibles can be put in these two groups, dynamic and formal. The formal equivalence versions all unanimously say circle of the earth. And really, I think that's what we're interested in. Dynamic equivalence versions, I fully believe, have their value and their uses, but we're really interested in the formal. Okay, that's about it for this episode. Next episode, guys, we're going to have to go back in time. Yes, we're going to go and check out what the Hebrews wrote and thought about the circle of the earth. So, coming up soon, the next episode, which will be entitled A Round of Hebrewskis. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll catch you then, eh? G'day viewers, how you doing? DanMill23 here. Welcome to Flat Earth Bible. This is episode number 3, entitled A Round of Hebrewskis. Just to recap our last episode, we were investigating the word circle in the Bible, and we checked out two methods of translating: dynamic equivalence and formal equivalence. We kind of determined that formal equivalence was the method of translating that we were after. Formal equivalence attempts to translate perhaps on a word-for-word basis, with the objective being accuracy at the expense of readability. Dynamic equivalence translating is I suppose the opposite idea, where you're trying to translate perhaps blocks of text, paragraphs, verses, and the emphasis is on readability rather than accuracy. Interestingly, as two viewers pointed out, hope I got this right, Ryu Daragar and Dr. Plausible, they pointed out that the dynamic equivalence method of translating, because you are trying to translate from an ancient text into a modern context, it's more likely to be influenced by modern ideas, and we noticed that in the translations, that the dynamic equivalence versions use the word globe instead of circle, or ball instead of circle. Okay, so we've just got to continue. We've got to just go a little bit deeper. We've got one more layer to go, and that is to go and check out the original Hebrew texts and find out, well, you know, why are the formal equivalence versions translating circle as circle? All right, so let's go and crack open a few programs, and let's do that. Okay. All right then, guys, what I've got open here is a program called eSword. It's a very cool program, and it's also a very free program, Bible study program. Download it, and it will come with the King James Version of the Bible for free, and very useful, very helpful, and I'm using it here on Isaiah 40:22. So, Isaiah 40:22, it is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth. Next to circle here is a hot link to the, this is the Strong's number, 2329, which is a link to the word that has been translated or rendered as circle here. So let's click on that and go and check it out. So, H2329, here it is in English letters, and the way you pronounce this word is, as I understand it, hoog, not chug or cug, but hoog. Okay, so the definition is circle, circuit, which is very similar to a circle, and compass. You've got to remember, when it's talking about compass, it's not talking about one of these things, it's talking about one of these things, the instrument for drawing a circle. Alright, that's fairly definitive. Now, this word, hoog, is used 3 times in the Bible, and now we've just got to go and check out its 3 uses. Alright guys, this is Strong's Concordance. This is the online version. I'll put up a link. It's very useful for checking out words, their meanings and uses in the Bible. So far we've been checking out this word here, 2329, hoog. And as we've already investigated, it's been defined as and translated as circle, circuit and compass. And here are those translations: circuit, compass, circle. So, we've already been looking at Isaiah 40:22. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth. Now what I want to do is I want to start drawing a few things together, as well as trying to understand the meaning of this word circle. First, let's go to Job 22:14 just quickly. Thick clouds are a covering to him, that he seeth not, and he walketh in the circuit of heaven. Let's talk about the circuit of heaven later on, but for now, all that we need to take away is that walking in a circle is probably more meaningful than walking in a sphere. Next, Proverbs 8:27. This is where I really want to investigate, and in fact this line, this very cool line, will turn up in a few videos later on. So, Proverbs 8:27, when he prepared the heavens, I was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth, the next bit is, I was there. So the question is, what's going on here? Who was there? What's happening is there is God creating, preparing the heavens, and there is a witness to this event. I was there. Who is this witness? This witness is wisdom. Go and check out Proverbs 8 yourself. It's an interesting read. And it's basically the personification or anthropomorphization of wisdom. And it's wisdom basically giving a testimony. So let's just read it one more time with this knowledge. When he, God, prepared the heavens, I, wisdom, was there. When he set a compass upon the face of the depth, I was there. Okay, so let's now just investigate this last line, which is the important bit for us, because God we have a witness, an eyewitness, watching God creating the heavens and the earth. And the way that he does it and the way that it's described is what we're interested in when investigating this Hebrew cosmology business. Let's start at the end here of the depth. If you click on this little number here, this will take you to the meaning of this word. And depth does not, it's water, right? But it's not any old water. It's the deep, the abyss, the primeval waters. Primeval waters. I have imagined the primeval waters in the intro that I have for this series. You can also see this in Genesis when God moves about on the surface of the waters. That's what I am showing you in that intro. God at lightning speed, I imagine him moving very fast. God moving about on the surface of the water. Here, so this is the same waters. Okay, it's the same word. It's the same waters, the depths. The face upon the face, and this is the surface. You click on this word here. It's surface, and this is our circle or compass. To draw a circle is what we're talking about here. And setting the compass. This sort of pairing of words is like measuring and setting a compass, and we'll talk about setting a compass later on. So let's read it one more time. I was there when he, God, set a compass upon the face of the depth, when God drew a circle upon the surface of the water. So really, that's what it's saying. God drew a circle upon the surface of the water. God did not draw a sphere upon the surface of the water. And also, the circle of the earth, and indeed the circuit of heaven, as I will show in later videos, it's the very same circle that wisdom witnessed God drawing upon the surface of the primeval waters. However, I will be backing that up and explaining all that in a future video. Suffice to say, all we have to take away from this now is that circle really does mean just that, circle. Okay guys, we're making some progress. Now, I think I've conclusively shown that circle means circle. However, there are still objections by theists, and the objections run along the lines that, sure, circle might mean circle, but circle might also mean sphere. I've already touched on that we have no real basis to assume that circle means anything other than circle. However, there are still these objections, and I want to address those. It's an important thing because in terms of Hebrew cosmology, we've got to understand this, we've got to sort out this circle business. Those videos coming up will be basically about theist objections, and they will be entitled The Theist Strikes Back. However, before we get to that, I want to do one last video on drawing circles in the Bible. So, thanks for watching guys, and I hope you'll join me on the next episode of Flat Earth Bible, entitled The Unknown Hebrew Tool. G'day viewers, DanMill23. Welcome to Flat Earth Bible. This episode's entitled The Unknown Hebrew Tool. Alright, just a quick recap. So far we've been talking about hug, which is the Hebrew word for circle. The first time we investigated circle was in Isaiah 40:22, where God sits above the circle of the earth. The second brief investigation we did was Proverbs 8:27, where wisdom is witnessing the creation of the cosmos by God, and wisdom says, "I was there when he set a compass upon the face of the deep." Now, as we talked about briefly in the previous episode, the deep is the primordial ocean, the pre-existing ocean, which will get a video all of its own in due course. Upon the face really means surface, and where it says he set, that could also be rendered as he inscribed, and where it says compass, well, that's just the word hug, which is circle. And so a translation, perhaps a more poetic translation, dynamic translation of Proverbs 8:27 is, "I was there when he, God, inscribed a circle on the surface of the water." What I want to do now is have a look at Hebrew tools that might relate to geometry and relate to building and measuring. Specifically, I want to give a final bit of evidence for the case that hug means circle, and I also want to give a bit of evidence about the orientation of the circle of the earth. So let's get to it. Okay guys, so we're going to investigate this some Hebrew tools. So we're going to start with Isaiah 44:13. This is the King James version, and there's lots of thithis going on. So I'm going to try and stumble my way through this verse. "The carpenter stretcheth out his rule. He marketh it out with a line. He fitteth it with planes, and he marketh it out with a compass, and marketh it after the figure of a man, according to the beauty of a man, that it may remain in the house." Okay, what we'll do now is we will go and investigate what all of that means. Now, first of all, we have rendered the carpenter, and this is the craft. This is the Hebrew word craftsman and wood. So the wood craftsman stretched out. I've had enough of thithis. Stretched out, which is the word natar here, and this is the same word from Isaiah 40:22, where God is stretching out the heavens. His rule, this is the kav, and his rule is a measuring cord. It's rope or string that's used for measuring. He marketh it out. Ta'ar means to draw or trace, to mark. Okay, that's fair enough. With a line. Now, if you just read the King James Version, you're not going to get what's going on. You have to go deeper than that. And I submit to you that the King James Version is actually pretty inaccurate when it comes to this, the rendering of this passage. The carpenter stretched out his rule, his measuring cord. He marked out with a line. This is Sered, and really, if you go and check out lexicons and commentaries on the Bible, with a line is not really the sense of what is trying to be described here. Sered has another meaning, which is red ochre, or not red ochre, it could be yellow ochre, I don't know, but ochre. I just remember it because it's got the word red in it. The carpenter stretched out his rule, marking it out with red ochre. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. The next one, again, you're going to be confused if you're just basing it off King James only. He fitteth it with planes. What does that mean? He fitted it with planes? Has it got wings? No. What's going on here is he fitteth is asar, and asar means to do work or produce or make. So really what he's saying here is the carpenter did work, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce this, it with planes. What this means here is chisels. It's described here as a scraping tool. A plane in carpentry is also a sort of a scraping tool. So he does work with the chisels. He does work with the scraping tool. Then it starts up again. He marketh it out, ta'ar, We've seen that already. And here's the big one with the compass. And the word here is mehuga. And if you have a look inside here, you will see the word hug, which is the word for circle. And so what we're talking about here is the circle drawing tool, the mehuga. So next we're going to have a look at what could a mehuga be, and what could a stretched line, a stretched ochre line be as well. Okay guys, so next question, what is a mehuga? The short answer is nobody knows. Nobody knows. But I wanted to find out what it could possibly be. We already know that it's got the word hug in it for circle, so it's a circle tool. It was used, at least in one example, for measuring and something to do with sculpting. So that led me to sculpting websites, see what I could find there. And I started to come across the idea of calipers. One sculpting website that was selling calipers said this about calipers. Calipers are one of the sculptor's most useful tools. When needing exact measurements from life models, a good caliper will give an exacting and accurate measurement. So the next question is, when were calipers invented? You know, what's the earliest set of calipers in the world? The earliest set of calipers in the world that I could find date back to 300 BC. And I found inscribed on an Egyptian temple, Com Obo, during the Ptolemaic period, this picture, and it's a bunch of medical tools, and it includes tongs and calipers. Okay, so 300 BC we had calipers. A mehuga could be a set of calipers. They don't have to be made of metal. They could be hinged wood with a little hinge on the top, or they could be as simple as two pegs with string in between. Now this leads us to the other tool that we were investigating, which is the stretched measuring line. The stretched measuring line is used when setting out the foundations for things. Now I know this because I used to set out the foundations for playgrounds. I used to make playgrounds, right, in a previous profession. Now what we would do is, you know, you would consult the map and then you would stretch out lines between pegs to mark out where different things were going to be going. One thing that we did use was a chalk line. A chalk line is where you stretch a line against a flat surface and the line itself is covered in, dusted in chalk. So this stretched line close to the ground, say, is taut, and you pluck it. You pluck it like a guitar or something or other a couple of times, and it leaves the chalk sort of bounces off the string and lands on the ground, and it leaves you a nice straight line over a long distance. Okay, so what we were talking about here is constructing lines and measuring and constructing circles on flat surfaces. This brings us to the next Bible quote, which is Job 38:4 and 5. And I'll read them now. Job 38:4. This is God talking. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare, if thou hast understanding. And 38:5. Who hath laid the measurement thereof, if thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? So here we have God stretching the line upon the surface of the earth, the foundation of the earth. And we also have, and we saw before, wisdom watching God inscribing a circle on the surface of the waters. So this is what I want to take away from this. We are talking about constructing on a flat surface in both cases.
In the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, Let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. And God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. And God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth. The gathering together of the waters called he seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And God set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. And the evening and the morning were the fourth day. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens, in the firmament of the heavens, in the firmament of the heavens, in the firmament of the heavens. Then spake Joshua to the Lord in the day when the Lord delivered up the Amorites before the children of Israel. And he said in the sight of Israel, Sun, stand thou still upon Gibeon, and thou moon in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still, and the moon stayed, until the people had avenged themselves upon their enemies. Is not this written in the book of Jasher? So the sun stood still in the midst of heaven, and hasted not to go down about a whole day. Fear before him all the earth. The world also shall be stable, that it be not moved. The Lord reigneth, he is clothed with majesty. The Lord is clothed with strength, wherewith he hath girded himself. The world also is established, that it cannot be moved. Say among the heathen that the Lord reigneth. The world also shall be established, that it shall not be moved. He shall judge the people righteously. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in. For he looketh to the ends of the earth, and seeth under the whole heaven.
Don't waste any more time. Visit the links above now and order my book 16 Emergency Landings Proving Flat Earth. Visit my online store now and order the new enhanced Gleason's Flat Earth map. This map used to be in every school and library in the nation before NASA was created in 1958, when the maps were ordered removed. Have your Gleason's map hanging on the wall in your house where no government can take it down. Here you see it hanging on a wall in the house of the late Charles K. Johnson. Here is a quote from the book 1984 by George Orwell. Every record has been destroyed or falsified, every book rewritten, every picture has been repainted, every statue and street building has been renamed, every date has been altered, and the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History has stopped. Order your map now.